So John was my husband, Jack's dad, and he was larger than life. He was the kind of guy who walked into a room and the whole room just lit up. He could walk into a room of 150 people and not know one person, and by the time he left, everybody loved him. He was just a funny, engaging kind of person. Very much like his son. Just a great, a great guy. He would give you the shirt off his back, and he often did, trading shirts with other firefighters and such. He would leave with one shirt and come home with another sometimes, but he was just, he was kind, and he lived his life in kindness, and that was.
The only things that I remember are stories, and the funniest story I've ever heard was that he went on our roof with a bucket of water and maybe might have poured some water on her.
Yes, he might have done that. He was a jokester. He had a great sense of humor. And one day when I was coming home, we lived in Brooklyn and we had a terrace, and he threw a bucket of water off the terrace at me. But I got him back and did the same thing about an hour later when he was walking the dog, so. You're cute. Well, the fire department has always meant everything to us. I was, well before I met John, I was involved in the fire department. I served on a board of directors of a captive nonprofit that helped the New York City Fire Department. So I was very involved in it. John was a firefighter, at his core. He'd done a lot of things before he started, but being in the fire department was, as I said in his eulogy, really the essence of who he was. It was all-consuming for him in a good way. It gave him the ability to do all of the things that he wanted to do. Help people, save people, be there for people, be supportive for people. Help other families when they were in need. And that's what the department's all about, and since he's passed away, we've been the recipient of that in so many different ways. He was sick from 9/11 cancer, so for us it was not an immediate death, but it was a very long illness. He was sick for about 3 years, and Jack was a baby at the time, and I worked full time. There's a lot going on, and he had to get from our home in Long Island to Manhattan to go to Sloan Kettering, every other week, sometimes more often, sometimes in the middle of the night if he was ill from a chemo. And the guys stepped up. Family Fire Transport gave us a van. The guys were on a rotation driving him in. They were there for us every second, not just the guys in the firehouse, but the whole department was behind it. They really were there for us. And when he got to a place where we knew we weren't coming out of it, and he had breathing tubes down his throat, I didn't want him to be alone. And the guys, both the career guys from the city as well as the volunteer firehouse where we lived, they did a 24-hour watch for me because I sometimes had to go home. Again, Jack was still a baby. He was only 2 when his dad died. So they were always there for us, and now they are. We have a couple of guys who are here with us now, who come with us to memorials and support us, and check in on us. It was just my 15-year wedding anniversary. Some of the guys sent me little heart emojis, and they're there for us. Often. They're really great, and it's that connection. Once you're part of the fire department, once you're part of that fire family, it's hard to not be part of it. I think, I've spoken to other widows, and that's sort of the biggest thing that you miss is John would come home and tell me about calls. He would tell me about, things that he did during the course of a day. And, I was interested. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. It's the greatest job on earth, right? And so for me, I think it was very hard when I wasn't as much a part of it. So to maintain the connection with the guys is important for me. And it's important for Jack, because being a fireman was so much of who Dad was, and because Jack doesn't remember his dad so much, I think that to have the guys around to talk about his dad and to know who his dad was in this other life that Jack didn't know about, you know, the fireman dad as opposed to the dad, is kind of a great thing. I think that what I really would want people to remember most about John, from my perspective, is that he cared for others more than he cared for himself. He at his worst moments, at his sickest moments, he was there for others. You know, fighting for the Zadroga bill, you know, standing on the steps of City Hall protesting. It was all about everyone else. It wasn't about his illness. You know, he was taken care of. He was okay. He had me. He had Jack. He had a pension, but it was all about the people who didn't have it as well as he did. You know, he responded. You know, on 9/11, of course, he responded to Katrina, and it was all about other people. And that, to me, there was just such a giving nature about him, and it was just, he didn't even think about it. He just did. If somebody needed something, if somebody on the street, you know, didn't have a shirt, he'd find one in the car and give it to them. He was that kind of person. He just gave and gave and gave, and it was just second nature. He didn't think about it. It wasn't whether somebody was looking or not looking, watching or not watching. He just he cared about people. He really cared about people, and they didn't have to be just his family. I mean, he loved his family ferociously, especially his son. But he just cared about people, whoever they were, and if they were, especially if they were in need. That was probably, to me, the one thing I would want everybody to know about him. I thought it was an amazing quality.